Hey friend, Brandon here. Let's talk about the Apple iPhone 12. Much like many things in 2020, especially for students, it might be worth it to just take a gap year and skip this one. Let's talk about it because this is Tech Today. Some of you who are on the This Is Tech Today Discord chat server or follow me on Twitter know that I've been using the iPhone 11 Pro for a number of months now because a lot of my production gear has certain apps that only work on iOS, which is kind of a bummer because I prefer Android. So I've been spending a lot of time with the iOS ecosystem. Of course, there's going to be a comparison between the two, so if that video is done, you'll see it in the card up here. Otherwise, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when I post that. So of course, I had to pick up the iPhone 12 in order to do that comparison, and in my experience, it's been a little bit underwhelming. Now, don't get me wrong, the iPhone 12 is a really good phone, but it's also just kind of the same thing as before, but with some steps back, which is actually really frustrating. So let's talk about what is different and what may cause you to upgrade to the iPhone 12 if you have an older iPhone. There's a better display or screen, and that has a higher resolution, it's a little bit brighter, it's OLED instead of LCD. Now, don't get me wrong, the LCD on the iPhone 11 and the XR was actually really good, and you would be hard pressed to notice a dramatic difference between the two, but it is nice to have an OLED screen, especially for things like battery life. You also have this really nice form factor that is reminiscent of the iPhone 5. I really do like the squared off edges, it's really quite nice, and you have the ability to just set it down on your table and it stands up. There's this new ceramic shield on the glass that is supposed to be more impact resistant, so that is nice as well, especially when glass is so expensive to replace on iPhones. You have the latest Apple processor, and it's really quite amazing to see what Apple has been able to make over the past few years on their own. I think we're finally at the point where the gap between the Qualcomm chips and the Apple chips is significant enough that we can admit that Apple is definitely doing something that's way better than what we have available on the Android side. Then you have more memory, I guess, better camera. I don't really notice a dramatic change. You're probably fine either way. There's the HDR video, and then of course you have 5G, as if they didn't shove that down your throat enough. So those are all the things that are different from previous models, but in my actual use, how much do those things actually matter? You see, when I pick this phone up, it's not any different than any iPhone I've been using in the past year or so. And the reason for that is actually a blessing and a curse for Apple. You see, their phones happen to just perform really well over time, and the headroom that they have for things like the processor, the performance, how good their cameras are to begin with, that's already just so mature that the step up here is not significant because you're not really tangibly noticing that much of a difference. In the past, this would have made more sense. You would have had an exponential leap forward, you would feel a tangible difference between devices, but this one, it just shows that it was good already. So with the iPhone 12, you're getting more of a cosmetic change over any sort of tangible experiential difference in terms of performance. But unfortunately, this back is just so fingerprinty and it feels kind of cheap in my hands. It reminds me of plexiglass when I hold it in my hand, which is not a thing that you want to experience on a premium device that's made out of metal and glass. Interestingly enough, the Pixel 5 feels more premium to me and it feels nicer in the hand because of that matte finish. Plus, this blue is a little bit too intense for me. It ends up looking a little bit toyish. And of course, if you want to change that, you can go with the channel sponsor Dbrand. In one of their skins or grip cases, it can help cover up all those fingerprints that are just so annoying. And their new grip case is really amazing. It feels really thin and slim, has this amazing texture on it that I really like. It's my favorite grip case to date. They even have a skin for your MagSafe if you want that. And you may have heard that the screen on the iPhone 12 and 12 Pro is a little bit more prone to scratches, but less likely to shatter, so that's the trade-off. Well, Dbrand does have tempered glass screen protectors that are available to help with that, and unfortunately, my screen has already scratched a few times. So if you want to pick up anything from Dbrand, make sure to click the link down below in the description. So if the design of the phone, especially the back, is a little bit underwhelming, if the screen scratches a little bit easier, and that's a little bit disappointing, if the performance doesn't feel like a significant jump forward because it's already really good, if the camera doesn't feel like a significant jump forward because it was already really good, what else is there really? Well, you have the HDR video, but let's be honest, most people are probably not going to use it or know how to use it. There are people within the tech community and within the filmmaker creator community, and they're having a hard time figuring out how to use this HDR, this Dolby HDR footage. So why would someone like a family member, an aunt, or an uncle, why would they want to have HDR video? Why would they want to go through the hassle of posting it on to like Facebook or Twitter and it's all blown out? It just doesn't look good. You could say that Apple is being kind of aggressive. It's using its influence to make these social media platforms adopt to that new standard. That's true, and that might be beneficial. But for now, it doesn't really have a compelling reason to exist or that you might need it. And then you have 5G, which, if we're going to be honest, is not the most dramatic thing that you can find out there in terms of tangible benefit. I've really tried to find a compelling reason for why we need 5G right now. Is it nice to have more speed? Of course, definitely. But do we actually need it? And are we actually getting the benefits of those higher speeds? Well, if you've been following me on Twitter, you know that I've posted some speed tests when I was next to a 5G tower of me both on 5G and on LTE or 4G. Obviously, it's not the most comprehensive scientific test that's out there, but I noticed that there really wasn't much of a difference. In fact, the main difference I saw was just upload speeds, which can make sense for content creators. And there are even people out there that have performed their own comparisons and found that the 4G, it was faster than the 5G, which doesn't make sense. But here's the thing, with 5G in your phone, you're paying for that extra little chip in there. That's why things like the Pixel 5 is a little bit more expensive, or the Pixel 4a 5G with millimeter wave for Verizon costs $100 more. It's why technically the iPhone 12 costs more than the previous model, all for this little window on the side. And then probably the most frustrating thing for me, especially coming from someone who is using a Pixel 4a XL for most of the year, battery life. With last year's iPhone 11 model, the battery life was improved. There were some really good reviews about that. But with the iPhone 12, it feels like we've taken a step back. And on top of that, you have 5G, and then now your battery life is suffering even more. You see, in the iPhone 12 Pro and Pro Max models, there's supposedly some hardware in there that is capable of a 120 Hz refresh rate screen on the display. That's similar to what you would see on the iPad Pro. And that high refresh rate is really nice. It makes the phone feel really snappy and smooth. It's really nice on the eyes. But the downside of 120 Hz and 5G is that it impacts battery life. When Apple already has average battery life just by having 5G in the phone, adding in 120 Hz is probably a really bad idea. That would be a really bad customer experience. So the natural solution probably would have been to put a bigger battery in there, but engineering and designing a smartphone is way more complicated than making a YouTube video or talking about it on the internet. Any changes like that would take a long time. So hopefully in the iPhone 13, we'll have a thicker iPhone to support more battery, and hopefully 120 Hz refresh rate, at least in the Pro models. Now that, along with some other features, could definitely make it feel like a notable upgrade. And then I've had the experience with the Pixel 5, which essentially has 2-day battery life. I feel really spoiled, by the way. The least I could expect is that my phone lasts me from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed without having to charge it. So yeah, the battery life is average. It's not horrendous, it's just average, like the Pixel 4a XL was. But average just isn't good enough anymore, at least in my opinion. So if I had a friend or family member ask me, hey Brandon, should I get the brand new iPhone 12? I would have a hard time really leading them in that direction. I'd probably tell them that their existing iPhone is probably good enough for now and to maybe wait until next year. If their battery life is already quite poor on their existing iPhone, then yeah, maybe you can feel okay upgrading to the iPhone 12, or maybe you get the iPhone 11 and save even more money. See, that's the thing. The iPhone 11 is $600. This is $700. The base tier starts with 64 gigabytes, and if you upgrade it, it's nearly $800. And at that point, you're so close to the iPhone 12 Pro. That's a whole nother thing. It's kind of the same story, at least with the normal 12 Pro. I'm waiting for the 12 Pro Max. Supposedly there's some significant upgrades there, but for the iPhone 12, in terms of what it's offering, it's really hard for me to suggest anyone upgrades to it unless they absolutely need to. If your phone is like 4 or 5 years old and you need a new iPhone, then totally, like, the iPhone 12 makes sense. It'll probably last you for another 4 or 5 years. It's that good. But if you're coming from a device that's only a year or two old, I wouldn't upgrade to the iPhone 12. Add on top of that you don't get a charging brick. You do get a power cable, but the power cable doesn't work with the old charging bricks. It only works with the new charging bricks, which is USB-C, which is also the thing that MagSafe uses, which is another accessory that you have to buy. I don't really buy the environmental impact sales pitch. It seems like it's more of an opportunity to make more money, which, to be honest, I do invest in all these companies and Apple and all these things, so that's good for me as a shareholder, but it's not really great for us as a consumer. Most of the time I feel that we're a little bit too cynical about Apple and things like that. But in this one particular area, I agree, not so great. That's my review of the iPhone 12. It's another iPhone. You don't need me to go into all the nitty gritties of the specs and everything. It's a great phone. It's good. It's just not a big leap forward. And because of that, maybe take a gap year. But if you do end up buying an iPhone 12, make sure you check out the links down below. Those are affiliate links that I receive a small commission from. Definitely help support the channel. But what are your thoughts? Are you upgrading to an iPhone 12? Do you think it's enough to wait for it? Or are you gonna wait another year for one? Or are you not really an iPhone fan to begin with? Make sure to leave some comments down below and into This Is Tech Today community Discord chat server. We'd love to have you. Thank you so much for watching This Is Tech Today, where we talk about the intersection of technology in our everyday lives, in business, and in all things creative. Until next time.